Matt Clarke has penned a new deal at Derby County. Let's talk about it. Derby County have announced that Matt Clarke has signed a brand new contract with the club, which will keep him at Derby County until 2028. Now, obviously, Derby County will know Matt Clarke from a wide range of spells at Derby County, including 2 back-to-back loan spells and then a 6-month deal just gone from Middlesbrough. Now, for me, Matt Clarke is an incredible defender. You know exactly what you're going to get from him in the Championship. And is he going to help Derby County go from strength to strength next season? I definitely do believe so. Now on screen now you are going to see the squad depth chart, and it's very important that we take a look at this. There's still obviously a lot of work to do on this squad. There's a few positions where maybe we could move players on, obviously a couple of loan spells as well who may find themselves returning. Now obviously we're going to take a keen focus on Matt Clarke this morning, who has just signed a new 3-year contract, taking him in line with Kenzo Heldmine for length of deal left, and just 1 year behind Sondre Langas. Now I have got it in a 4-3-3 setup because I do believe we're going to move to a back 4 this summer, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, for me, I think it's very important when we're talking about Matt Clarke that we get the right players around him in those other defensive positions. You look at, I think we need another left back. I think obviously there's probably going to be another centre half coming, in my opinion, just so that John Eustace has that opportunity to move between a back 4 and a back 5. I do get the impression that Jake Rooney may potentially move on this summer, but we're obviously going to have to wait and see how that sort of addresses itself heading into pre-season and things like that. Obviously, I think the players will be back in, is it mid-June, I think? But obviously, there's a lot of talks that could go on for Derby County and a lot of talks that could go on across the course of this squad. We know that Kane Wilson is also in talks over a longer-term deal, which obviously is yet to be announced. And you can see on the left-hand side all the contracts that are expiring. Now, let's talk about Matt Clarke. He's been a pivotal part of Derby County since arriving in January, and I'm fairly sure he played every single minute of the final 10 games. I think he played 16 of the final. I think he played 16 of the final sort of period of the season, and in my opinion, he has been probably one of the best defenders Derby County could ask for. He's been incredible over the course of the last few months, and I think you have to really give him props for that, because there's not many people that you could turn around and chuck in a back 4, back 5 of a team that are really struggling like we did with Matt Clarke and really sort of turn that tide around. Now, ultimately, I know that Derby County weren't struggling in a sense of defensively. It was always 1 or 2 goal defeats. It was never sort of getting battered. I think the only game where we really got battered was Sheffield Wednesday. But ultimately in that game, I don't think we got battered. We went for the win, and ultimately it saw us sort of drop down the pecking order a little bit because we opened up for them really, and it saw Fozzie get absolutely burnt for pace. It saw a couple of other players get burnt that day as well. But it's been a decent season. It has for Matt Clarke since arriving from Middlesbrough. And if we do just take a look at his sort of seasonal stats, which are obviously quite important when we look at this. He scored 3 goals this season. I believe only one of them was for Derby County. Started 27 of 30 appearances, 2,478 minutes. And if you look at his numbers since joining Derby County, there's only a couple of appearances where he was below that 7 rating. Now, we have to go back to 2019-20 and then 2020-2021, where he made a ton of appearances for Derby County, 44 and 37. This season he's made 16. Is he going to make some more next year? Absolutely. I think an incredible player who certainly fits into what John Eustace is going to try and do. I do think we're obviously going to make that move to a back 4, which obviously I think is going to entail bringing in different sorts of players in the midfield, maybe even a different sort of centre-back. Obviously, as it stands right now, we have no sort of confirmation of any other transfers or anything like that. Obviously, we still don't have the retained list either. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that one, because it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to take time to really sort of truly see what John Eustace is trying to do. And I do think that the retained list will give us a true understanding of sort of where we're going to go. There's obviously some big discussions to be had around the likes of Craig Forsyth. Obviously, experienced option, done really well at the back end of the season, but probably can't do a full season at left back. We know he's competent at centre half. So is that going to be a conversation that's going to be had by John Eustace to put him into that centre half position? You've obviously then got Curtis Nelson returning from injury. How is it all going to shake up? These are things which we really need answers to. And obviously, you've then still got the answers of what's going to happen with Liam Thompson and even some of the other players who are out of contract as well. Is Nat Phillips going to return? Obviously, these are big discussions which are going to be had over the course of the next few weeks, and I think Matt Clarke staying just shows what faith sort of Matt Clarke has in this conversation of John Eustace. I think John Eustace is an excellent manager. I think he's done an excellent job since taking over at Derby County, and I think when we talk about what Matt Clarke has done for the Championship and what John Eustace has done in the Championship, I think you could really see them putting together a real formidable partnership which could really take this Derby County team to new levels. Now, I said at the end of the season, depending on what happens in the summer, I could see Derby County pushing maybe at the back end of the playoffs. And now, I'm not saying we're going to get the playoffs because obviously you've got to compete with some of those teams up at the top end who are sort of doing, parachute payments. You've got obviously some bigger teams that have a much bigger sort of budget than we do, and that's obviously a conversation for the future as well. So where are we really going to be? And we don't know anything about sort of budgets or anything obviously at the moment, which is obviously that sort of situation which is difficult for Derby County fans to really sort of put a bridge on where Derby County are going to be and where Derby County are going to go. But I do think that John Eustace can bring in the right sort of players to be able to push this team forward and really push them to be sort of a proper competitor in this division. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be, we're going to go into this season and suddenly be challenging for automatic promotion. And we've got to make sure that no matter how it starts next season, we've just got to keep the faith with John Eustace because we know that he can get it done. And obviously, the big hope for me is that we spend maybe 10 million quid this summer, really bolster our wide options, really bolster our midfield, maybe bring in a left back and really sort of start to push this team into a team that can really create chances, that can really dominate the ball when they have the opportunity to, and aren't going to be a team that are going to struggle if they're up against a low block or in possession. Because if we talk about Derby County last season, we pretty much lost the games where we dominated possession, and I think the only game where that was different was probably Pompey at home, where I don't necessarily think we dominated the ball, but we sort of had enough of the ball and created enough chances, and it felt like in every other game where we had the ball, just felt like we weren't the team sort of pushing to be able to really create proper chances. And I'm delighted to see Matt Clarke stay, and I think this is just one step in the right direction. And if we do look at some of the reaction from Rams fans in the comments of the tweet, there's still Tommy and Fozzie still to deal out, which we know. Obviously, Kane Wilson's had his extension triggered. A lot of people want Phillips to return in the comments. A lot of people saying no Fozzie, no party, which obviously you lot will all know my sort of love and admiration for Craig Forsyth, who's done an incredible job. But what's going to come next? That's the question. What is going to come next? When we saw the initial tweet at 9:52, I replied thinking instantly Kane Wilson. There's a lot of people who thought it was Kane Wilson as well. Obviously, it's a difficult one really because we need to get Kane Wilson tied down quickly. We know that he's reportedly in that sort of contract discussion with Derby County over a longer term deal, but obviously we're sort of in that position again where we don't know where we're going to be, and I think this summer of transfers is going to have a really important sort of discussion on what happens with Kane Wilson next season. I hope he stays. I really do hope he stays, but we have Matt Clarke signed down to a new contract. What a brilliant signing he has been on every single occasion we've had him. He's extended his third spell at Pride Park Stadium. Let's see what happens next year. John Eustace making moves already. Matt Clarke is staying. Derby County are going to be pushing for a much better championship season. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. You turn on that notification bell. Hit the like button as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll catch you in my next one.